I've found that my biggest reason why I don't want to go back to it now is because the game performance when you're exploring the area, which I mean, realistically, when you're doing side quests, you're waypoint hunting, not unlike what I was actually just doing
Yeah.
in Final Fantasy 14. That it's waypoint hunting, but because when I'm playing 14, the game it's running really nicely. It's like a 13-year-old game that I'm running on a modern PC, so it looks beautiful when I'm walking around, but the art style and the art direction is still really good. So it's like there's a good aesthetic experience here. It's perfectly 60 FPS at all times. I'm not getting a headache, and I'm enjoying exploring. Where when I was trying to do the side quests in 16, in the performance mode, it's like
It's not
rickety.
very good. Yeah, it's not very good.
Yeah,
It's
and
not very good.
it also really depends on what you're looking at too. So in the desert is the funniest area too, because out in the desert, like if you go into the desert, it's the best that game runs in any overworld.
Yeah.
It's kind of just sky and sand. But if you get anywhere close to that town, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, this game runs at 26 frames
Dips.
a second. Remember? It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
why?
Yeah, yeah.
The most mind-blowing part about it is I think you'd mentioned something about this too, that you notice that like you just can't sacrifice it though because of the combat, because once the combat
Exactly.
runs at 60 it's like so
Exactly. For the solid game, 30 frames per second is an absolute no go for me because especially if you're not using any of the accessibility rings, like you have to actually rely on timing for your dodges, your parrying. So I feel like also with the fidelity mode that the game has to offer, that the motion blur is just way too strong in it. Like moving around the camera, like I tried it for a good 5 minutes and I felt nauseous playing in it in that mode. So I'm like, you know what? I'll deal with the dips. I'd rather deal with the dips while I'm walking around because in combat it does get better. In the sense that I guess it drops the internal resolution to something lower so it can actually hit the 60 frames per
yeah, I
second
hear it
target better.
720p
Yeah,
honestly.
I'm hearing up like as low as 720p. Yeah, I can go. Yeah. And it is what it is. It's not ideal for like modern consoles, like when you think about like the PS5 and stuff like that. You don't think you'd be playing at 720p, but I'll be lying if I told you I didn't enjoy the game though. I like at least when it comes to the the combat aspect, like I didn't really deter my experience too much though. But I definitely can't wait to see how this game is gonna look on PC.
Yeah, and I mean that's to me why I'm not pushing for like the platinum for this one.
Yeah, just you're gonna
I'm
re-experience
just
it
like,
maybe on
I
PC.
feel like this was I'm gonna get through it on my stream so that anyone who is on my stream that's interested in the story but doesn't have a PS5 and just wants to know it, they get to go through the whole story. So I did every main campaign mission there and a bunch of the side quests too.
Mhm.
And then I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna just retire this game probably
For now.
forever because I feel
Forever.
well, no, this version of it,
Oh, okay.
because I feel like what I played was the demo for the or like the
Yeah, the
early access,
beta.
not even the
Yeah,
demo,
like yeah, the
the early
beta, the
access
beta.
version of the
Yeah.
PC version that's gonna actually come out and run well. Or to not make it sound like I'm PC master racing right now, the PS5 Pro version or
Might run
PS6.
it better too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, that's the thing because like, I think that the way I always conceptualize it, at least in my channel, is something at least here, no one in my chat is confused about it because I talk about it a lot, is the idea of a development target being the problem. And I think that we were tricked into thinking that this would be a console generation that had good performance because I mean you spend enough time on Twitter that you know that both sides have
And the
zealots.
Warriors. Yeah, and the
And
Warriors.
the thing they would complain about the most is like, oh god, this game's coming out on PS4 as well. I can't wait till they're going to start developing games for these consoles so we can really
Only,
unlock
yeah,
the power.
exactly.
And I'm just like,
Exactly.
okay. I was like, I mean, I think things are running pretty well here, and I don't know how much better you want things to look, guys. Like I've been on a 3090 for the last couple of years, so it's like games look pretty nice, and honestly, like I prefer that they just run better. But what I didn't realize is that that was the reason all the performance modes were running good. Because most of the games that have good performance modes
Or
are also
cross-gen.
PS4 games or
Yeah, they're
PS5
cross-gen
Plus
titles.
One
Yep.
games. And I'm just like, man, can we just? I was like, even can we roll it back? And how about we just make even Nintendo Switch the cap? And you guys all have to just maybe be like, this needs to boot on Switch. I'd be okay with that. I'd be like, oh, well, games won't look quite as nice. I'd be like, I didn't think Tears of the Kingdom looked like shit. I thought it could have run better, but there was no point where I was watching that, playing that game, and thinking, come on, this looks like
You
crap. Like there were plenty of
yeah.
times I'd be in Tears of the Kingdom and just be like, oh man, look at that skyline there. Oh,
Yeah.
sunset looks really nice. So I think that ultimately what it comes down to is what the developers want to shoot for.
I feel like the companies definitely have data on who's using these performance modes and not, and I'm pretty sure they probably have some that it shows that like most people end up using fidelity mode on consoles, so maybe that's why they feel like they could ship a game in 30 frames per second on consoles. But I think I do appreciate that, at least the hardcore audience is rising up and making their voices heard to developers, at least on social media platforms, to let us know that we actually do care about frame rates over here as well. And some people are taking hard stances that if you guys don't have a 60 frames per second, I'm not buying the game type of situation. So it's nice to see console gamers actually like set a standard for themselves,
Yeah.
at least like the set a standard for themselves, and it's good. Hopefully it does apply some pressure to the developers, so at least in the inception of creating their game they can aim for those targets properly, because it feels like Final Fantasy 16. I don't know if this was always in the plan. Maybe it was a last minute thing that, oh yeah, people actually really care about this, and they wanted to put it in, because the way that it's running, we've seen much better games visually, like even with Horizon Forbidden West, and it could be just an engine situation, but even that game, it's absolutely beautiful, and somehow the developers got it running at 60, because I think they prioritize that, they actually care to get it running at 60. So hopefully with patches they can get the game where it needs to be though.
Well, I mean, that's all I'm saying is like, hey, just give me the option to put it in whatever mode you're running it in combat. Just let me put it in there all the time. And they're like, oh, but it'll be 720p. It's like you're playing a PS3 game. Like, I'd prefer to play a PS3 game that runs well.
Yeah,
Like, that's what
especially
I'm
for the
trying.
type of game too. It's like
Yeah.
it's not a card-based game, right? Or turn-based. Even if it was turn-based, so like I guess people could be like, yeah, it's an action game. And
Mhm.
it's an action game through and
Yeah.
through. And I think frame rate's extremely important with these style of games, from the Devil May Cry's to the Bayonettas.
So what games are you looking forward to that are coming out for the rest of the year? Like, is there
Wow. I'm crossing my fingers that Starfield is excellent. I'm
yeah,
crossing my fingers that they deliver. It's not a buggy mess at launch, because everything that I've been seeing is exactly what I want. The game has so much cool mechanics in
yeah.
terms of building, customization. It has a solid story, like Skyrim in space. It sounds cool to me, right?
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Spider-Man 2. Big fan of Spider-Man. So I can't wait to play that. Alan Wake 2, looking forward to that. Super Mario RPG, I need that.
Definitely Starfield. I'm really looking forward to Starfield. In fact, the closest I've ever come to making a controversial video was I read an article that publication, The Gamer, wrote an article about being a pirate in Starfield versus being a cop. But is I think the thing that really weirded me out is that they kind of morally justify being piracy as like righteous. Be like, yeah,
Oh
you want to
yeah.
be a pirate, like having fun on the high seas and not a cop just ruining everyone's fun. And I was just like, wait, no, pirates are really bad people, man.
That whole Starfield Direct, I don't know, man. If you're interested in the game and after watching that, then it's probably just not for you, because that sold me right there. As long as all the promises get delivered, because we are in an area where era where companies over promise, under deliver sometimes, and I'm not trying to get cyberpunked again. So
I mean,
hopefully
I often get called a cyberpunk shill because I'm one of the people who didn't think it was total trash when it first.